photo inside of a photo.
Oh, video and
Oh, the top one. Yeah, it's Skype keys defaulting it back up there. There we go. All right, ready to roll?
Sure.
All right. What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. Tonight, we have Brian and Chase on from Deep Sea Zoas. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. Hello, how are we doing?
Excellent, excellent. So, you guys are hardcore Zoa growers. I know you guys are both into it. So really cool. It's awesome to see that you guys do it together. If I ever have a kid, hopefully he's into it too, because I think that's really cool. So I originally met you guys at the Nagre show, and I thought it'd be fitting to wear that shirt today.
Good choice.
Thank you, thank you. So we can talk about that later. And just kind of fun little fact, the thumbnail is actually one of the Zoas I got off you guys in March. So I bought one single head of it, and it did nothing for months, and now it's finally starting to take off and grow. So super stoked. I love that one. It's crazy looking, so it's good. So how's your guys' day going?
Good. Long day, but good.
Yeah.
Great.
Excellent. Couple questions that were in the chat earlier. I'll touch on before I forget about them. One of them was asking, why do I get Zoafrag? Some have nice big polyps, and sometimes they'll shrink, or some are tiny. In my experience, a lot of the time that has to do with light level. So if they're lower light in the tank, they'll usually be bigger polyps, so they can collect more light. And if they're higher up, they'll be tighter, kind of closer together. That could also have to do with flow. So if you have tons of flow, it's going to be a very tight mesh of them. Or if it's low light, low flow, they're going to be longer and danglier type of thing. So that's in my experience, anyways, with that one. How about you guys? Similar?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Sure.
What was the other question I had earlier? Another one's is asking, why do you Zoas decide to leave the top of a frag plug and move to the underside of the plug or onto a crate? I've never seen them move, but they will grow around the plug. I've never seen one just move itself, though.
Typically, what will happen is they will grow, grow in the direction that they want to go to. So it's a lot of times it is because of light. If the light is a little too intense, they'll start to continue to grow, and they'll mat the direction that they want to go to. What happens usually is that original head will actually melt off, and it almost looks like it has moved, but it actually
That's good.
the original one melted.
Yep, that's a good call, actually. I didn't consider the melting part. That would give the look of moving it. One we were talking about earlier, a lot of people are asking about iodine dosing. I'm still on the fence if there is a big benefit to that. Like we were saying earlier, with fragging, sometimes there's benefits. So do you ever use iodine at all in your tanks?
We don't use any iodine. We don't do any dosing whatsoever. So I know a lot of people that cut mushrooms will do iodine dipping or other fleshy items. I do not with my zoos. We just cut and let them heal and then put them back in the tank. The quicker they can get back into their original environment, the less they'll be stressed to the organism. And they're usually a lot easier to heal.
Okay. Do you do anything special for them to heal, or you just do quick, clean cut and get them back in?
I try to cut without cutting the animal if I can. So I will actually use the bone cutters and will actually cut the frag plug more so than I will cut the actual animal itself. I find that there's shorter healing time and shorter opening time. You may have a little bit of a less than stellar looking plug to begin with until it starts to grow, but the animal itself is actually a lot healthier.
Nice. I 100% with you on that one. If you can cut underneath it or take a chunk of whatever's attached to you off, a lot happier than if you take a knife or something or razor and try and shave it off. That one never seems to work quite as well. Okay, so what are your main fragging tools? Is it bone cutters, scalpels? What do you use?
Well, we actually use medical scalpel with the replaceable blades. We do use the bone cutters, and another one that we really like to use is actually a pair of scissors. So the medical scissors, especially with those, you can actually go through and cut directly through the matting after you've snapped the plug. And the bone cutters that we use are actually the longer. They're actually a longer cutting area.
Okay.
Opposed to the short ones. So we can actually get across the plug if we need to.
Nice.
And then forceps are important.
So Forceps is one that I haven't actually used, but that is a good idea. So is that more just for holding, picking stuff up? Like, what's your main use with the Forceps?
Mainly just for picking the Zoa up or holding the Zoa,
Hmm.
so I don't have to handle it any more than necessary.
Yep. Now, another one that comes up a lot. Do you worry about paleotoxins at all? Do you take any precautions when you frag?
Yes, we wear all the personal protective equipment that we
Hmm.
can. We do cover our eyes. If we're doing a lot of cutting, we will actually turn on exhaust fans and wear a mask of some sort to protect our nose and whatnot. We
Hmm.
always wear disposable gloves,
Okay.
and then after we're done, everything gets wiped down with Clorox wipes.
Oh, okay. So that's fairly stringent, actually. That's good.
We do our cutting in our home,
Yep.
so we don't have a store and whatnot. So there's obviously the rest of the family that lives in the house, and the last thing in the world I want to do is all of us end up in the hospital because of my hobby.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, one thing someone asked earlier, if there's any type of way to know if Zoa has paleotox or not, I don't believe there is, and I don't even think there is a list of, the safe or unsafe ones. It's a bit of a Russian roulette with that one. But
There's nothing that really specifically says, and there's no coloration of a particular Zoa that's going to say yes it is or no it's not.
mhm.
The biggest thing that you can do is trust the people that you trust, and if people
Yeah,
tell you that this particular type of Zoa has a higher level, then trust them.
yeah,
And
that's
don't
fair.
cut it. Um, I don't cut anything that has death in the name. Just I
Fair,
sell it as a colony when I get it, and that's just the way that it stays.
fair point. It's probably wise. Um, have you okay, there's other weird things I've never tried, but I've heard of people using like vitamin C in the water and all these different things. Have you ever experimented with any of these types of random supposedly growing enhancers?
No.
Nope.
The only thing I've ever done differently than normal lighting and normal flow and normal water
Hmm.
is for controlling the algae on a plug itself that has those, is I'll
Yep.
actually do a peroxide dip.
Okay.
That's the only thing I've ever done. It will make them mad for a couple of days,
Hmm.
but they will come back and the plug will actually be crisp white right afterwards,
Yep.
and a little bit of algae is gone. That's the only thing I've ever done with my zoes.
Okay. Is
Um,
it is it a mix of peroxide and water, 100% peroxide or
I was doing 100% peroxide if I brush it on. If I'm doing a dip, I do a 50-50 split.
okay. Nice. I've done
Use
that.
standard 3%. That's
Okay.
the normal.
If there's been some that have been not open for a long time, then that's one of those times I've tried doing the peroxide dip just to potentially kill if there's some pest or bacteria or something potentially on it.
Cutting them will also elicit a response.
Hmm.
Actually, frag the zoe. If you have something that's not growing,
Yeah.
then if you've got two heads and it's just two heads on the plug,
Hmm.
you cut into two separate plugs. It will cause the Zoaxiella to kind of elicit a growing response. Um,
Huh.
just called
Yeah.
try to survive. So a lot of times those two heads will then become four.
Really? See, I wouldn't think to do that. I'd be like, oh no, I don't want to hurt it. It's already, stressed out and not growing, not happy. That's a good one. I'm gonna try that sometime.
I did that with the white zombies originally
Yeah?
before they started growing. I had two heads.
Ah,
I didn't have any more than two heads.
yep.
And they were in the tank for probably 6 months as two heads. And then I cut it. And then that's why you now
Hmm.
have.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that experiment. I'm gonna try this now. It's a good one. Aussie Dan was asking, how important is the white spectrum to Zoas? I mainly run blue and UVs. So on that thing, do you think the white spectrum is important? And it kind of looks like you got T5 in the background, but what are you running for LED on your grow tanks?
I do run T5 on my
Hmm.
frag tank. I run an ATI 6 bulb,
Okay.
36 inch, but
Hmm.
I run Reef Bright X8Os as color pop supplement.
Yep.
And then on the display tank, I run a Giesman 8 bulb
Hmm.
and with Reef Brights as well.
Okay.
So everything is plumbed together, and I know that's very uh, not always looked upon properly, that you should not have your two tanks plumbed together. But I do have my two tanks plumbed together, and it
That's
keeps the livestock happy from one tank to the other, so I can move freely from one side to the other.
hmm
I don't have to stress about it at that point with differences in water quality variation. The lights are on the same exact schedule. They turn at the same time, turn off at the same time.
So there's basically a stress-free environment. I mean, your maintenance is easier. You probably have one skimmer, you have one water or one auto top off. Like from that perspective, it makes life much, much easier.
Yes, I mean, with running a 120-gallon display tank and a 56-gallon frag tank, I run a 75-gallon sump.
Mm-hmm.
So I over sump my aquariums always. I don't.
Now, is that mainly for water volume, or is it just to give you room to grow and do whatever you want with it? Water volume?
I made the mistake when I first got into fragging. I ran an 11-gallon frag tank in my basement here and had its own little individual filter, and I lost thousands and thousands of dollars in livestock. I had a crash. It's harder to maintain smaller water volume. Mm-hmm. And when I wanted to get back into fragging, it was a double-edged sword, whether I wanted to make that jump again.
Yep.
Because when you lose, 85, 90 frags that are
that hurts.
Thousands of dollars and overnight, it gets a little painful. Yeah.
What do you know what happened? Why that tank crashed? I mean, smaller water volume, but do you know? I always wonder when people say a tank crash, like what caused the crash or what happened.
The list is so long with that tank. I actually sold the aquarium and warned the people that bought it that it was cursed. It had everything. It had planaria. I had the tank actually turned bright green with, it was literally culturing its own phytoplankton. Everything that could possibly go wrong with that tank went wrong. And I sold the whole setup. I didn't keep anything. I didn't even keep a heater. Got rid of it all.
Fair enough. So the new tank has been curse-free?
It has been curse-free, knock on wood.
Excellent. Okay. Now, for someone that's new or wants to start getting more into zoas, is there anything you find that can make you more successful, or any kind of pro tips around zoas?
Take your time.
Yeah.
Just like with anything saltwater, start off with the more common zoas, get them figured out before you jump into the deep end of the pool with the really heavy hitters, and do the things that you would with anything. Just start off small.
Yep. Okay, that works. Paul's asking, why can all different zoas do great, and then at the same time some just literally melt?
They're animals.
Yeah.
That's the only way to explain it. They come from different parts of the world, and this hobby, we bring animals and fish and everything else from all over the world with that, and we're trying to get them to adapt and live symbiotically in our tank because it's ocean water. So we feel it can, but the ocean water and currents and setup in the Red Sea compared to that of the Caribbean and the Pacific and everything else, it's all different. So we just have to kind of do the best that we can. And when you have something that doesn't work, don't continue to try it again. You're just wasting the animal, unfortunately. I did that unfortunately with SPS. I cannot grow SPS.
Yeah.
You have just.
But you can grow zoas like no tomorrow.
That's right. I can grow zoas. I can grow mushrooms with no problem. But softies, no big deal. But everything else, I just leave it alone. My water parameters should have no issues whatsoever running SPS.
Yep, that's fair. And certain corals just don't like certain tanks. Like I know for me, Digis are one coral that just never seem to thrive in my tank. Don't know why. Other SPS are fine. Digis, nope. It always goes for a little while and fades away. It's like, what the heck? I don't understand it. And then it used to be, I don't know. There's been a few. It's been weird how that happens. So I'm hoping once I move it, everything's still happy. I don't lose any of the magic for like the millies, which is one of my faves. Okay, so another question. So you guys obviously go to a lot of frag shows. Nagre Crawl Show, for instance.
Yes.
So we'll get back to that one in a sec. Now, if someone wanted to grow frags and sell them at a frag swap or show, what would be some kind of tips for bringing your Zoa collection or prepping for a show or doing your first show?
Prep early.
Yeah.
Don't expect to cut a week before the show. And be okay and have your corals be okay. Try to keep your water quality, try to keep your lighting as close to the same for your show tank as it is for your home tank. Are going to be adjustments that are going to happen to your aquarium. I mean, our first show that we ever did, we had a lot of zoos that weren't open. They were just not happy. So we learned quickly to adapt. And we actually, we just make sure that our water stays the same temperature.
Yep.
Zoos are a lot easier to deal with than the SPS sellers and the LPS sellers. There's a lot more opportunity for coral warfare with some of the other types of corals. Zoas are pretty easy.
Yep.
They are a beginner coral, but
some of them are super finicky. But
they're what got me into aquariums.
Is it?
Yep. Zoas. I saw a picture of a salted agave, and
good choice.
You know what? I have to have that. And I've got one frag of a salted agave, and it will not grow. And I have, unfortunately, they've melted a couple of times. But I've got one that is still there. But they're my unicorn. So
there's always one. Someone's asking what kind of salt you recommend, or what salt do you use in your tanks?
I use H2 Ocean Pro.
Okay, nice.
I feel that it has the most normal, if you will. I've tried a lot of them and had too many variations from one bucket to the next or from one mix to the next. I like H2 Ocean Pro. It works, and I don't know.
Nice.
I switched from reef crystals to that,
yep.
And I just like the polyp extension and everything else that I get out of the H2 Ocean.
Everything's happy. It appreciates those parameters.
That's right.
Yep. And how often do you do water changes in your tanks?
Water changes, I try to do once a month. I have bad habits that I have grabbed over the years, and kind of look at my tank, and if it doesn't look like it needs it, I don't do it.
Fair.
Is that right? No, not at all. It needs to be done, but with 225 gallons of water volume, I have a little bit more flexibility.
That's fair.
I have somebody that has a 50-gallon tank.
Okay. So you more do water changes when you look at the corals and you're like, okay, they need one.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. It's good to know it that well to be able to say, okay, yeah, they're not happy, something's up. Let's do a water change.
When you have just one type of coral, it's easy to.
That's fair. That's a good point. Someone's asking, will you be at Reefapalooza? What's your next show?
I will not be at Reefapalooza. We are in Canada. So since we're in Canada, it's more difficult for us to come across the border.
Yep.
My next show is the Kitchener-Waterloo show in Kitchener, Ontario. So it's called the KW Coral Show. And then after that will be the Niagara Coral Show in March in Niagara Falls.
Excellent, excellent. That was a good show last year. Looking forward to again this year.
A little bit bigger this year.
Yep, excellent. So what's the dates for the Niagara Coral Show?
Niagara Coral Show is March 21st and 22nd.
Excellent.
2020 in the Scotiabank Convention Center in Niagara Falls, Ontario. We are a 27,000 square foot facility this year for 2020. In 2019, we were 11,000 square feet. So we have gone 2.5 times up again. So it should be a little bit bigger.
Nice. That'll be good.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
You're going to have to do a lot of prepping of zoas for that show now.
We have 3 frag tanks for the show now. So
what's that, sorry?
We have 3 frag tanks for the show now.
Nice. That'll be good. That's awesome.
I've got my coral vendors that's actually taken a 600 square foot booth. And he's bringing 9 8-foot frag tanks.
Wow. That's a good chunk. 9 of them?
9.
Times 8. That's a lot of frag tank.
Yeah. I don't want to move. I don't want to be part of moving the water.
No, I don't blame you. Okay, just in the comments, do you feel like amino acids help with coral growth or help with zoas at all?
Difficult question for us because we do not dose. I've read all of everything and I see the benefits of all the different dosing methods. I just don't personally dose.
Fair enough. Hey, if you don't need to and it's working, you're good.
Yeah, far we've been lucky.
Do you feed the zoas at all? Do you broadcast feed them anything specific?
Yes, I 100% use Polyp Lab.
Yep.
So I have Polyp Booster.
Okay, nice.
Do about 10 minutes ahead. And and then follow it up with ReefDudes.
Nice.
And
So
we broadcast always.
Polyp boost first, and then 10 minutes later you do ReefDudes?
Yes, always.
And how often do you feed the tank?
Once a week.
Once a week? Okay. I've noticed, I can't say about Zoas specifically, but I noticed like my acans are more colorful when I feed them regularly. So I'm sure it's correlates similar with Zoas as well.
It helps tremendously with the growth as well. I mean, when they're happy and healthy, they grow.
Yep. Very true. Now, do you know what your nutrient levels are? Someone was just asking about nitrates. Like they said their nitrates are 20 to 30. Do you have a rough idea what they are in your tank?
4.
At 4? Okay.
Yes.
Are they?
Maintain 4 parts per million of nitrates.
Yep.
Phosphate is extremely, extremely low. And it has been that way since I basically started the aquarium.
Nice. What do you do for filtration on your tank?
I have 2 8-inch marine pure blocks in the tank. I have a typical skimmer. I have a Bubble Magus Curve 7. And I have 3 mechanical filtration socks.
Yep.
And I just started a week ago running Aquachar.
Okay, nice. How's that going so far? How's the Aquachar so far? Brian?
Well, since I added the Aquachar, it actually took my pH swing. Are we losing? There we go.
Yeah, you're back.
The pH swing actually went from a 3-point swing, so, well, sorry, 0.3 swing, to a 0.04 swing.
Nice.
Through the day.
That's
so
pretty
it
good.
Has drastically decreased the pH swing.
Nice. I'm very curious to try it and see how it works out with the calcium reactor and see what the impact is, or lack thereof of swinging, or tighten the gap, or see what happens. I'm really curious, but it'll be good.
Definitely.
Excellent. All right. So with Zoas, any other kind of pro tips around them, things that you think can make a tank more successful with them?
Flow.
What are the secrets you got?
Lighting and flow.
Yep.
Those are the 2 things. Keep the lighting the same and keep the flow the same. So I run an AI Nero 5 on the frag tank.
Yep.
And my lighting, everything else just stays the same. I have all of the Zoas on one same level.
Okay.
On acrylic frag racks, and they do very, very well.
Now, do you find there's certain ones that like to be higher or lower, or do you think having them all on one level field kind of beneficial overall? Like, are they all similar in what they like for lighting and flow?
Most of them are, yes. Some of them do like a deeper water. So if your Zoa stays, if it should be more like a pally, where it has should have a head the size of your thumbnail and it's staying really, really small, move it to a deeper section, and they'll typically expand out and start grabbing for the light.
Okay.
And actually get the polyp extension at that point.
Okay, awesome. G-Day Reefin, $10 super chat. Thank you, sir. Have you ever kept stratospheres? I'm thinking about getting them, but I'm not sure. They are 2,000 per polyp. That is insane here in Australia. I've heard they are very hard to keep. I don't even think I've ever seen them.
I have tried it. I had 3, and I kept 3 for about 6 months, and then woke up one morning and I had a blank plug.
Oh, no.
So they do melt. They are very, very, very difficult to keep, and they typically do go away. In my
just to quickly drag that up for a second. So that's what they look like. I've never even seen or heard those, but at that price, that is insane. Now, if there is more finicky Zoas, overly priced or just finicky, is there any kind of ways to increase your odds of success with them, or is just one Zoa the same as, they're all similar?
Look at them on Google.
Yeah. That's fair.
Wait till your tank is extremely, extremely mature, and try a little bit before you go crazy with it, because otherwise you're just going to upset yourself and your wallet and everything else, and it gets painful. I've done it. I've been there. No fun.
Whew, that's crazy. So, okay, now with the established tank. So a newer tank versus one, a year or two old. Do you think there's a big difference on Zoas thriving in the tanks that's more aged? I know SPS that's kind of semi-relevant. Is that with Zoas as well?
Not necessarily. They're going to you're going to get the polyp extension if your parameters are right, if your lighting is right, if the flow is right.
Yep.
But I just found that I have a better opportunity now that my tank is running for 4 years to keep some of the others that I couldn't keep before.
Okay, nice.
So like my agaves,
Yep.
I did not try the agaves until my tank was about 2 years old. And like seductions, the white zombies, salted agaves, those are all agave people eater. And they are difficult to keep.
Yep.
Not as difficult as strats, but they are difficult to keep.
Okay. Now, you said you had a Nero 5 on your tank for flow, right?
Yes.
What percent or how much flow are you actually running through it?
About 30%.
Okay.
Because it's only a 4 foot by 18-inch tank.
Okay.
So I turned it on originally playing with it, and I had fish that could have easily surfed in the tank. So I had to dial it back quite a bit.
Yep. It's a powerful little guy.
With
call it now with Zoas that are right by the pump, lots of flow versus the far side of the tank. Do you notice a difference in the high versus the low flow areas of your tank?
Not really. I can actually show you.
Okay.
I've got sorry for the moving around here, but literally that's literally right next to the pump. And they look fantastic. And then those guys over there are at the furthest in from the, and they look exactly the same.
Fair enough. So not a huge difference then with flow.
No, they get used to it.
Yep.
To begin with, they're a little bit upset.
Okay.
But
that's fair.
They acclimate.
Okay. No, that's good to know. Something else on else. What causes Zoas to shrink? Usually that's just they're not happy. Could be nutrients, could be too much light, could be probably more reasons that I'm not thinking of, but
Snails.
Snails? Really? Do they eat them or what do they do?
No, they'll clean the frag plug, but it just upsets them. So they'll shrink down, and a lot of times it'll actually, if the snail really likes that particular frag plug, it'll actually cause them to start growing off the side of the plug and melt off that individual plug.
Good to know. Have you ever had to deal with like those little Zoa spiders or nudibranchs? Have you had many pests kind of come in on stuff?
I've had some pests come in, but anything I bring into my tank, I dip. When I take it, I mean, even though my water volume is exactly the same from one side to the other, when I take livestock from my frag tank and put it in my display tank, I dip it from one side to the other, and vice versa.
Even from tank to tank?
Tank to tank.
That's hardcore. It's good. And they're the same water volume. That is extra hardcore. Okay.
Same exact water volume, but you never know what's going to be able to go through the water and what can't go through the water. And I don't necessarily want to introduce something that could possibly be in my frag tank that I missed. Or vice versa.
Okay. No, that's a good way to do it. I don't know if I've ever dipped from tank to tank, but that is probably a wise thing to do. Can you talk? Someone's asking, can you talk about Zoa diseases and treatments? Have you had to deal with many Zoa diseases?
Not personally, no. I've seen people that have had the issues, but the different types of dip that's available is usually by far the best way to deal with it. And luckily, I've not had that issue. So,
what's your go-to for dipping?
Coral Effects.
Coral RX?
Yep.
Yeah, nice. Aussie Dan, Zoas are fully open, just half the size they were my display tank. That's probably your two different tanks have different lighting intensities, and it's likely just how much light they're getting.
That's exactly right.
Yep. Heard spaghetti worms can make them not do well. Yeah, anything that's touching them and tickling them and annoying them is likely going to help it close up or shrink up if it's getting touched too much. So spaghetti worms definitely could do that. I have that problem. Captain America's large polyps, my nano. Yes, I got those in my nanos too. They're pretty big ones. What are zoopox and how can you tell if you have it? How to treat it? I have no idea what zoopox are.
They sound exactly like what they are. I mean,
Chicken pox for zoas?
yeah, basically, yes. When they're closed up, you'll see little white specks.
Mm-hmm.
And the little white specks are typically going to be zoopox.
Hmm.
Treatment for that, I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, I have been lucky so far.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to have to deal with anything of that nature, so I've been relatively lucky.
Now, I have also seen zoas. I think it was more just like the Paleozoa grandes, but where they'd actually take sand into their flesh as they're growing, and it'd somehow be part of them as it grows. Have you seen that before? Because I
I
think okay. 'Cause I think I actually was looking that up once when you were saying about the whole zoopox things, and it was literally like bits of sand that as they grow, they just take it with them as they're. It's kind of weird, but pretty sure it was the cinnamon grande ones that had that. Dr. Wealth, good iodine based dip is good for zoas. Yep. If you frag, sometimes I know I'll do a iodine dip on all kinds of corals when I frag. It just kind of helps it heal and prevents any infection. One thing with fragging, do you use a new razor blade every time?
Not every time, no.
No? Okay.
Probably should, but
Yep.
I don't.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I bought 100 pack of scalpels or whatever, and each fragging session I'll just use a new one. I have one buddy that's hardcore with that, and he was saying too, if there's any rust or any little bits, then it will take out your frag potentially. So,
Yes, that's correct.
yep. Richard was saying antibiotics is a way to treat zoopox. Baran 2. Oh, good to know. I have not heard of that one.
I will take a screenshot of that and keep that.
Yeah, good to know. Perfect. Yeah, let me know if you guys got any other questions in the chat. Hopefully I didn't miss any. I've been trying to get them as they pop up. Zoa eating nudibranchs. That's one I've had once before. That snuck in, and they're interesting because they will turn the color of the zoa that they're eating. They take those pigments out, and they're normally white or clear, and they'll blend in with the zoa. So those guys, normally you would see them at nighttime when the zoas are closed up, and you're like, oh, that one's still out. So if you're inspecting your tank at nighttime, good way to do it. Those guys are a little bit nasty, but you can literally just plunk them out with tweezers as long as there's no babies. The fresh frag, so another one you can kind of half deal with. And yeah, I haven't really had any zoa issues aside from that. Nudibranchs once. No, I've had one or two melt away, like you guys are saying, just not happy, doesn't like your parameters. But aside from that, they tend to be fairly easy. One question I saw earlier was if zoas aren't opening up, is there anything you can do about it?
I typically dip, take it out and dip again just to see if anything comes off.
And that's Coral RX? Mainly? Okay. The other thing you mentioned earlier was with peroxide. You said sometimes you'd brush it on or something. You do it straight? Was it just like a paintbrush or what would you use that?
Well,
Okay.
Q-tip.
Q-tip? Okay. Now, why would you, or what's the rationale to brush it on versus dipping it?
A really heavier bryopsis or
Okay.
algae.
Yep.
Or a higher end zoanthid that I don't want to risk.
Okay. Now, wouldn't it be harsher on it brushing it on straight instead of a dip? Or do you think it's less? It's less?
I brush it onto the frag plug
Okay.
as opposed to dipping the entire coral in it.
Okay, so you're not really doing it to the zoa. You're kind of going around it to get whatever
Right.
else is on that plug to take it out. Okay, that makes more sense. Gotcha. And now, one I was asking you earlier, actually, because I got a zoa, a fancy zoa, and there's an aptasia on it, and I need to get rid of it so it doesn't try to infiltrate my tank. Is there any pro tips for getting rid of that little punk?
I like the boiling lemon juice
Yep.
in a syringe. That's my tried and true method.
Mm-hmm.
If you see where it came out of and it's not going to affect your zoo, then a small dab of super glue.
Mm-hmm.
If it's coming out of a small piece of a rock or something like that, then you can do that. You can also use a slurry of kalkwasser and paste it on. That's another way.
So I tried lemon juice, but it wasn't boiling lemon juice. Then maybe that's why it came back.
I just like that. I mean, I heard somebody on one of the forums that said boil the lemon juice and use it when it's boiling, and that's what I have done, and it worked.
Okay.
Is it the proper way? I'm not really sure.
I think I actually honestly just fresh squeezed a lime that I had and then just straight up injected it. All right, I'll try that. I'm curious now. Do crabs eat zoas out of colonies 100 heads and it died in a week? Possible?
Possible, for sure.
Possible. A lot of inverts are opportunistic, and if they are hungry, they may get a taste for other things in your tank. So if they're not being fed properly, then they could be scavenging, and if those zoas happen to be tasty to them, could be. Our late friend Dave had a great video on Ferran too. I'd advise watching that. Okay, so that was about the one to treat the zoopox. We'll check that one out later. Perfect. So yeah, I don't know. Any other stuff you want to go through or dig into? I think we covered a pretty good spread around zoas so far.
I think so.
Yeah.
If anybody's in Canada, come to the Niagara Coral Show for sure.
I'll be there. It's gonna be good.
Yes.
Perfect. Chase, do you have any secret pro tips?
No, not really.
No. We got them all the goods.
Yeah, all the good stuff.
He's a man of few words.
Excellent. Well, you're man in the booth at the Coral Show when I originally met you last year. So, are you going to be man in the booth again this year?
Yes, I will.
Yeah. Excellent. Waterbox Aquariums. Good evening. So speaking of, Nagre Coral Show is, I have it on my whiteboard actually, March 21st, 22nd.
That's right.
So that's when I'm actually going to see you guys next.
Definitely.
And yep, so you're going to have 3 frag tanks there, full of zoas.
Full of zoas.
All right, I'm going to have to pre-wheel and deal with you for some good ones I don't have beforehand again.
We'll make sure we do that for you.
Yep, excellent. All right, guys, I think we got everything. Thanks everyone for hopping on today. Ryan, Chase, thanks for coming on, guys. Always appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you next spring at the Coral Show.
Appreciate you having us.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.